Hi, everybody. It's so nice to have everybody here with us today, but really amazing to have Brighton Hertford with me. It is so lovely first to meet you. So great to meet you. Thank you for doing this with me. So many people were just blown away, and it was very emotional having you back to General Hospital for Bobbie's memorial episodes. How are you? And you're
Oh,
in Utah right now.
yes. And first, I have to say, ditto. It was overwhelming and emotional for me also. So, really, really happy to be here and ditto to lovely to meet you. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah right now.
And you live there now, and you have a whole different life than acting,
I
right?
do. Yeah, I've spent the better part of a decade working in the tech industry, SaaS to be specific, so services as software. Um, Prior to that, I was teaching high school. I was teaching acting and a couple of other different subjects, and found myself in education technology, and then that brought me in a roundabout way to where I am today.
So, and you're enjoying it? Are you enjoying it, or how do you? Yeah.
I am. I'm loving it. It was also like a shot to the heart to be back on set again. It's been a couple of years, so it was really wonderful.
So I want to tell you something that I really truly believe. In my heart, I believe Jackie would have loved all of this. She would have loved how they scripted it. She would have loved the story. She would have loved how they brought you back into it. I know that she would. I felt like they did her proud. If that's what do you right?
Oh, 100%. And I'm not going to shy away from the woo woo and the like mystical or spiritual, whatever you want to call it. But it was evident to me in so many moments in the days of filming, and one of them in particular being that it had rained, and there was a double rainbow just right
I
there
had
over
heard.
the studio. I'm sure you did, because we were all like, oh my gosh, like this is like her blessing, or just her in a different capacity, because you knew Jackie, and she was a rainbow. She was a myriad of different colors, and she evoked really strong positive feelings in people.
There
So
wasn't, yes, and I wanted to ask what you remember young when the young Brighton, but our recollection and that everybody says through this entire thing has been I mean she was always positive. She never showed to anybody if she had a down day, I don't remember her saying that. Like she would always be the positive.
Oh, yeah, so cheery. And I mean, granted, my experiences on the show previously, I was 4 months old to 8 years old, like just a little tight, and I was a bundle of energy. I'm not a sweet child, but a lot. And she was always so positive and generous and warm with me, and I mean, she was an extension of my family. She was family.
So take me through. I had heard and read the story, but take me through. So you're just happen to be at home and you get a call from Mark Teschner, or like, how did it come about that they're like, hey, by the way, would you like to come and play this part, Angela? Like, what happened?
Yeah, it was great. So Mark actually reached out to me, and he said, if I have the right contact information, is this the Brighton that played BJ Jones? If so, let's have some communication. I was like, Mark, of course I remember you. Like, yes, I do remember you. And we started chatting, and at the very first onset of it, it wasn't like a sure bet. It was like, we're talking about this, we're seeing if you're interested, kind of, temperature checking it. And without hesitation. I was like, absolutely, of course. All my own worry or whatever aside, this is for Jackie. I want to be a part of it if it's gonna happen. And lo and behold, I already had plans to be in Los Angeles at the time of shooting.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Oh my gosh. Like,
serendipitous, blessed, whatever. Again, whatever works for you, whatever you want to call it. It felt very much that way for me. And I think there was a part of me too that was just so excited about the prospect of this happening that I was like, oh, I don't want to get too excited, too soon, because this would be special for me too. GH was such a big part of my life, is still so important to me. And the prospect of going back and being able to pay homage to Jackie, it was all so much. And I was like kind of bracing myself. I don't want to get too excited. And then once it was locked in, I was just
When
so,
did they pitch you, tell you the story? When did they explain to you, like, so here's the deal. You're
yeah.
not coming in as BJ, even though you are BJ, you're coming in as Angela. Like, how did that go down? And
Yeah. So that was part of the email chain. I believe that I wrote back to Mark, and the subject line was BJ Jones back from the dead, exclamation point, question mark. Like, how are we doing this? And it was relayed to me kind of incrementally. And then of course, once the script comes in, you get a better idea of it. But I didn't really know, who it was going to be that I was playing until I had script in hand, and that was a couple of days before filming.
so you get the script that says Angela? Or did
Yeah,
you knew Angela was BJ from the beginning?
yep, and pieced it together, and then got more information as time went on. And what was really cool about it was the more information I received about the storyline. And I don't think I'm giving away any like secrets
Everything's
how the
happened. Yeah,
sausage is
yeah.
made. But you don't get the full script for the whole
Of
episode
course.
as a
Right.
day player. And so, as I was talking to people on the set, piecing things together, and talking to, producers and such, it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So you make those adjustments kind of like live in time. But I think it was for the best, because it was already a very emotional experience. And I think it served the story best for me to approach, especially those earlier scenes, with a sense of neutrality, right? So that the audience got to figure it out along the journey, so that it wasn't too on the nose and then it ruined everything. So I think it played out exactly as it should have.
It was, yeah. I mean, I'll get to the end part of it, but tell me what it was then. So here she comes, Angela. She shows up at the memorial. She's with Kirsten, Maxie.
Mm.
Did you guys talk again? Like, I mean, you had not met her, had you?
Oh, I can't say enough about Kirsten, and how wonderful she was. I had never met her, right? So when
Right.
I had passed away on the show and left the show, I had remembered seeing her. I was so jazzed because I loved Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century. I was like,
Like,
all
okay.
in. That was so cool. And so I watched her, of course, because she was on GH, and that was like my show. That was my home. That was my family. And so, knew who she was, of course, and was so excited to meet her. And at first blush, she was just so welcoming, offered to run lines with me in the green room because it is very, fast paced and high octane, and wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable, and was wonderful. We exchanged phone numbers. She was like, let's go out for lunch next time you're in LA. And just supreme, wonderful, wonderful woman.
You do realize, I mean, I think you probably do. You do realize that the BJ Heart Transplant storyline,
Mm.
that is like the top tearjerker of all time.
Yeah.
Like you were part of even though she was dead,
Hmm.
but everybody's like BJ, BJ, BJ. Like it is
Yeah.
iconic story.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so you're coming back into it now and did you realize later how iconic that story was?
Later, yes.
At the
Also,
time, you're like, I'm losing my job.
that was like, oh no. My mom actually took me out to ice cream to break the news to me because she knew how much I loved GH and my family there. And they even offered to have like a body double for me, in the time that I was in the coma. And I was like, I was so attached to the role and to my family there. I was like, oh, no, 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 I'm gonna do that. That's all on me. But I couldn't grasp the gravity of what that meant to people. I was 8. I was a kid, but I did have interactions with people at the grocery store or in the post office, mid coma or after my passing on the show, and women just with tears in their eyes, like, PJ. And I was like, yes, I'm alive. It's okay. Like I wanted to like comfort them and make sure they were okay. But yeah, I mean, especially in hindsight, I think my mom always follows this stuff. She's really proud, and we had it was fortunate that all 3 of us kids were able to be in the industry when we were, because we were a single parent home for a lot. And so she's really invested, and she would show me when it would be in Soap Opera Digest, like, look, your storyline, things like that. So definitely very aware. Yeah.
Was mom the one that got you into it and wanted you to do it, or did you want to be a little actress, or what do you remember?
Well, at 4 months old, I really didn't have much of a choice. It was like, there's no free room and board. You better start working,
Right,
girl.
right, right. But
No,
when
I'm
you were little,
but so my older brother and my sister were in it. And they were with an agency, Calman Arletta. Shout out to Susie Maines, who I love to
Susie,
say, Arletta. But yeah, they approached my mom. My first job was on The Young and the Restless. I played a baby boy, so I was very good at being an androgynous looking baby. Go me. And then my next job was with GH, and yeah, held it down.
held it
Great.
down. Held it down. Do you remember though? I don't know how. See, you were in the bed
Yeah,
when Brad Mall is listening to the. I mean, everyone's crying over her death,
yeah.
and she's on life support, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that?
I do.
What do you remember about Jackie and Brad?
They were so, ooh, I might get emotional.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I know. I can't either. I know,
Um,
because I remember it was so phenomenal
and
performance.
it's wild, right? Like it's wild to be sitting here as a woman, like a grown, real woman, and be thinking about something when I was so young, but it was so um impactful in my life. And they were so kind. I remember to this day, oh shoot, I should have grabbed it. I can if you give me a second. But
Sure.
Jackie gave me a ring. She gave me a butterfly ring that has opals in it. And we had this like really special moment where she gave it to me, and she talked to me about the significance of butterflies in her life. And she told me that in order to make sure that the opals never crack, that I'm supposed to take my pinky and rub it on the inside of my nose where like your, natural body oils collect or whatever, and rub it on the opal. And it's always been a very, very special uh, keepsake of mine. And to this day, none of those opals have cracked. And anytime I see people who have opal jewelry, I'm like, oh, you have to remember to keep them.
Did
Uh,
she give them to you as you were leaving the show?
yeah, as a way
Oh,
of saying
oh.
goodbye. Yeah. And Brad gave me this awesome art kit that like had, it was made out of wood, and you could like slide it on and off, and it had colored pencils and watercolors and all of that stuff, and talk to me about that. I mean, it's a difficult thing to explain to people that you know they were like family, and they were so gentle and warm and loving with me, always, never harsh, just lovely.
Did you? When I talked to Brad on the tribute we did to Jackie, I said
Mhm.
to him, I said, "What do you remember of Jackie in these BJ story?" He goes, choking up. He goes, "She broke my heart."
Yeah.
And I said, "Did you ever watch it back?" He said, "No, I can't. It's too much for him to watch it." And I believe it was very hard for him to talk about Jackie in that way because he, through it. But he said she broke my heart, and I thought Jackie deserved an Emmy for the whole thing.
100%. She was, I'm a powerhouse is an understatement. The ability that she had to be jovial and effervescent and joking and spicy and all of those things. And then also to just like, boom, drop into connected emotion as quickly as she did. amazing. I mean, the women who act on these shows are masters. They really are. Like it is an incredible thing to witness and then to be a part of and to be acting alongside these women that I looked up to so much and revered, to act across the table from them. I mean, awesome. So
And
I
so you do
don't have the
remember,
vocabulary for it, but
yeah, and you do remember the scene where you do remember them crying. Were you crying as a kid?
I did have a hard time. Yeah, and I was supposed to be in a coma, you know.
Right.
So they're crying over my body, and it's like you have to be non-responsive, and I had like a hard time keeping my eyes still. And um, I mean, the whole of it. It was also very emotional for my mom. You know, I mean, she's my mom, and she's seeing this miniature casket, and like we all know that this is pretend, but you can't help but feel what it would feel like. And gosh, I mean, I even have a hard time watching it back because I have a different perspective now. You know, I have a niece and a nephew who are so
You
close.
know what you know
Oh,
what it all
not
means
touching.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to see Lynn Herring
Yes. I
and
love them.
Lynn and then Christina Wagner.
Yes.
Tell me about seeing them again, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Okay. So I'm really trying to like keep it together here.
You
If
don't
you
have to
ask
worry.
anybody in my current life, they'll be like, we love Brighton. She's so awesome. Girl cries all the time. So I'm like trying to keep it
Okay. I cry at everything too.
together. um, we'll just say we're very emotionally
For
connected.
emotionally, yes, I think it's
Yes.
important. Yes.
Yeah. So Lynn and Christina were actually the first people that I saw when I walked into those halls. And I kid you not. So I'm walking down these halls and I'm like, oh boy, what a wild trip this is. This
Was it
is
like the same to you?
everything felt the same. It just felt smaller because I'm bigger. It's perspective, right?
Exactly.
Um, so I'm walking down these halls and I mean, you cannot mistake them. They must sleep in Tupperware because they look almost exactly the same. Like I don't know how they keep so fresh, but look great. And I saw them and there was a break in conversation and I saw Lynn and I touched her on the shoulder and I said, "Hey Lynn, I don't know if this is going to be spooky, but it's Brighton, it's BJ." And her face just lit up and she was like, "Oh my gosh, of course it's you. It's you. You look the same, but you're, you know." And we just had this moment and Christina was lovely and Maurice was there and had a wild trip down memory lane. And then Maurice leaned in and he was like, "When was the last time you were on a soap? Like, do you know
Did
what's going on here?" And I was like, "Well, it's been about X
29,
amount of
30.
years, 29 years, my friend." And he gave me the drill and he said, "This is what it's going to be like. You know, here's what you can expect." And I genuinely really appreciated what he shared with me because it set me up for success. It gave me a clear idea of, you know, what I was walking into and how I needed to show up. And that sometimes the expectation is that you get in and you get one take and you're done. And other projects, you know, commercials or um, films are not like that. My cat is trying to be involved right now. I think he
Does
doesn't
your
know
cat
what's
want to
going
say
on.
hello or what's this?
Yeah, this is Hank. Uh,
Hello,
the
Hank.
black cat. He's my familiar.
Oh, hey.
Yes, he's beautiful. He's like, "What's going on here?" But yes, it was a joyous reunion for sure. And one thing that I was like acutely aware of was what I was there for, right? Like it felt awesome for me. It was wonderful to reconnect with these people. Like I said, to act across the table from women that I looked up to so much. Jeannie Francis, I mean, Fanola, like the greatest hits, they were all
The
there.
greatest hits were all there.
My mind was being blown left and right. And at the same time, he's done. He's camera shy now. Holding adieu, Hank, holding reverence for what this was. And this was about Jackie. And I was there to be really in servitude and like grateful to be a part of it. But you know, this wasn't about me. This was not the BJ homecoming. this was a tribute, and I was genuinely honored to be a part of it.
When the moment they walked in the casket in the funeral, I was like, I can't, like, and I saw, it was Ryan Carnes and others and all that. Now, you had never met Ryan, of course,
True.
who's the brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm jumping, but I have to say that that final moment where BJ calls him champ
Yeah.
and he gets it
Mm-hmm.
was so touching. I'm gonna cry now. It was so touching. What was it like to play that?
Crying, and people are going to be like,
Crier.
"Get out of here."
People are watching us and like, all they're gonna do is cry.
They're like, "Okay, I guess we're just done
We're
with the
done
love
with this
fest."
now. Okay. But remember that? What was it like working with Ryan? You met him.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He was so focused. And when I say that I had a reverence, I mean, he obviously worked with Jackie more recently than I did. And he really carried that reverence. Like he was, there, I don't know what other word to put to it, but yeah, he was kind. He was really professional. It was lovely. Um, and yeah, that moment was obviously very, very meaningful. Yeah.
And then Ken Schreiner.
Oh my
Talk to
gosh,
me
I
about
love
Ken. Now, was he welcoming? I mean, what happened with Ken? Did he talk to you? What was the
Oh
situation?
yeah.
Because
Oh,
he's Jackie's best friend.
mhm. he he was great. He kind of challenged me at one point, and he was like, "How do you remember this? You were so little. How do you remember? How can you even remember?" You know? And I was like, "Well, kid, it was like the biggest thing in my life. It was like one of the biggest things in my life, and like it shaped me. I will never forget it. I will never forget all of those experiences. I mean, waking up at the crack of dawn as a child, uh, getting in our van and driving to set. We lived about an hour out of the city. Um, I mean, those memories are seared in my mind. The time that I spent with these people, going to the daytime Emmys. I mean, I was so fortunate. That was just an incredible experience. So I told him, I was like, "It's the biggest thing in my life." And he was like, "Yeah." He came up to me after day one of filming and had some really, really lovely things to say. Um, I, I mean, I've been speaking about the women, but Ken's another one that's just, he's no BS. I don't know if I can swear on this
Oh,
live stream.
BS is fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, BS is fine, but I was going to say something
Yeah,
else. But
yeah.
he's awesome. I love his candor. He's great. I could feel, obviously everybody on set had some time to process what had happened, but when you are in the thick of it like we were, it brought up a lot of emotion for everybody. But
How
he was
was it? Yeah, and how was it when I heard that people got up and spoke and did their
mm,
part,
yeah.
but everybody was there to support him. It was a different kind of day. It
Uh,
was, or
how
did
do you
you,
mean?
just in terms of filming, it was an emotional day, but
Oh
people
yeah.
had to like do their lines, but it was also emotional because it was for Jackie. So it was
Oh,
kind of like,
100%. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't just, we're filming and people are acting. They were definitely bringing a lot of their life into their performance for
mhm.
sure.
So then we get the complete, which I thought was the really cool, was we learn why we think Angela's there.
Hmm.
And the next day she sits down with everybody and gets little bits about them for her story.
Yeah.
But she also tells Carly and Felicia and Maxie what Bobbie was doing
Hmm.
in Amsterdam.
Yep.
When they brought up the prostitution and they brought up that it was human trafficking and that she was trying to help other women,
Hmm.
the loop of that was what I thought was the brilliance of it, because I thought that's how I felt they honored the character. They did not let that key part of her history just out, and that she did something heroic at the end, and that was never something that was just forgotten about.
Mhm.
And I just thought that to me was the great connector of it.
$100%.
What
And
did
I
you think
think,
about that? Did you know the history of Bobbie ever until now?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
I
tell you as a young girl, your mother was a prostitute.
not as an 8-year-old, but later
Right,
in
right,
life.
yeah.
What I will say, in my direct experience, my lived experience, I think GH has always done a good job of that. I'll call back really quickly to when I was in the coma, and them promoting the importance of being an organ donor, because that's what that whole storyline was about. Was BJ was lifeless aside from being kept alive by machines, and because she was able to donate her heart, Maxie lived on. And this too can happen for other people, so please become an organ donor now, right? Not the same, but in a different vein, speaking to the fullness of the human experience. People aren't just one dimensional. They have pasts, they have histories, they have presence. And I thought that it was really beautiful that they did a great job of encapsulating Bobbie, the character, as a whole person with a journey. And I think one of the lines that I had in the episode was like, we tend to deify people who pass on. And I understand that because I've had people really close to me pass on. I think there's so much beauty in telling the whole of the story and not just saying, oh, yeah, yep, ding, they were perfect, move on. Because they have past, because they have histories, because they have, you know, a whole experience, it makes who they are all the more beautiful, not in spite of it.
And then what was that like in the scenes with Laura Wright? You had met Laura. So tell me about working with Laura in those two, because you had not met her before,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I can't say enough good about her. I mean, that was a tour de force from what I understand. I was only acting with her for 2 days, but I know there were days leading up to that. And then beyond that, again, just the prowess, the ability to jump in and drop in and be so connected, and be generous also. um that was one of the reasons why I kind of took a step back from film and television, because I am a sensitive soul and I'm a wholehearted person, and the industry for where I was at the time that I was at was not for me, because I wasn't experiencing a lot of people who were being generous, who were being giving. And the whole experience from top to bottom and everybody involved were people who were being very generous, sharing and bringing you in to the fold rather than making you feel like you weren't a part of something. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. She was incredible. I think she
Right.
was.
And I was going to say, to your point, it is such a hard industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it is hard when you're a sensitive person in any way,
Yeah, I'm working on it.
but I am too. I am too. And I've been doing this for years. So, but it is that it is an issue. It's like some people just barrel through it, right? They have thicker skin and they're able to do that.
Yeah.
And it can wear on you if you don't have whatever that is.
Yeah.
Um, and did it sway you to leave the business?
Wouldn't say that it was something, that I was like, well, people are mean, so I've got to stop acting. It was circumstantial, and I fell in love with theater when I moved to Utah. I moved to Utah actually when I was 16, with my mom. And I fell in love with theater, continued to explore dance. I got a BFA in acting. And I loved the ability to really do the work prior to, and then tell a story every night, like really tell a story and feel the energy from the audience and all of that magic. What I will say is, being on a soap set, if you really do your homework and you prepare, you kind of get a semblance of that feeling
Right.
versus like a commercial set or a
Right.
motion picture or something where you're doing 72 takes. That's a different art form. It's different. It's still possible to feel those things, but yeah, I don't know. I just gave you like an answer that
But
went like,
now, but now,
but
but now that you went back in it, do you want to, does it make you want to act on television again more?
okay, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, but I'm also not a fool. And I realized that this was an opportunity that came to me, right? Like I know how it goes. I know what the grind looks like. I'm not permanently living in Los Angeles and driving in hours and hours of traffic and submitting tape and getting rejected left and right and doing all these things. This was truly like a gift that was given to me. So, am I open to opportunities? Yes, always. I mean, I love it, especially if it's the right opportunity.
Right. Right.
But I
What?
also, have some
Yeah.
stuff right now.
Yeah. What do you remember? Do you have in your head? Do you remember the last time you saw Jackie? Was it then when she gave you the gift?
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
We'd had some touch points after that, but I mean, the most memorable one for me was leaving GH.
So you had heard she had passed.
Yes.
What had happened and where were you? What was your
My mom reached out to me and she let me know. And I just kept thinking that it was way too soon, because my mom is obviously older than, not obviously,
Jackie?
my mom is older than Jackie.
Right.
And again, that tie and that kind of comparison, and it hit me, and it's devastating, obviously. And I know there wasn't a lot of warning either. Not a lot of people knew that that was going to be coming.
I think that was the hardest one of that was what was, yeah. It
Yeah,
just seemed so fast.
yeah. I mean, it's it's a funny thing because I think if you're posed with the question like, would you want to know when you were gonna go, or would you want other people to know when you were gonna go? Um, I think it's so personal, but I think it's also really beautiful that she had the nurses ball and she had, this awesome storyline, and was still injecting positivity and joy and all of that. And I honestly think that that's suiting. It suits her.
A lot of people, not a lot, I take that back. Some people were writing, oh, I wish BJ would have, you know, they somehow wanted her to escort her to heaven, but I was like, well, how are they going to do that? They'd have to have up somebody with a red hair with a wig on going up a thing. And I just thought that was very typical, which is why I loved this. You
Mhm.
still got the heavenly visit. You still got her there.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was more poignant than
Mhm.
your typical thing, which we've seen before,
Mhm.
where I'm taking you to heaven, mom. I'm taking you, with me. So come in my hand. That is what I thought was so beautiful about this, that she was kind of omnipresent, looking over all of, I mean, this is how I see it. Tell me what you think, but she's kind of looking over all her friends and family. She
Mhm.
was there, you know, hearing what they had to say, grieving with. I just thought it was beautiful the way they did it. How did you perceive BJ's what she was there to do?
Yeah, I think what's so lovely about it is it kind of leaves it up for interpretation and imagination. And there are so many people who have different spiritual paths or religiosity or whatever it might be. Um, and from my perspective, if you're talking about like the afterlife or anything like that, those angels or those people who have crossed the rainbow bridge, so to speak, have a really different perspective, if that's what you believe in, than people on earth have. um Energy in a different way. Like, we have a limited understanding of things, and so to me that makes the most sense that they would leave it open-ended and up to interpretation for what that reunion looks like. But you got to see, like you said, Michael, the support.
What was it like? So you finished taping. you've done your tribute. You've been part of this amazing 2 episodes,
Mhm.
and it's time for you to now leave. Was that heartbreaking? Were you feeling satisfied? Like, just I know you were so grateful for the opportunity to be part of it, but were you also like, you know, you are saying goodbye to Jackie and the character, and you're part of it. What was your takeaway when you left, when you were leaving?
I felt a sense of peace. I felt a sense, I think I can't remember who I said this to. I know I've done a few of these.
Yes,
Um,
you.
but there's like a sports analogy or whatever it might be where they say like I left it on the court, you know? Like I gave it everything that I could give it. I tried to be there in service of this tribute and left it with gratitude. I wasn't sad. I mean,
You
I
should
was,
be, like I said, I think you summed it up. What a perfect, wonderful opportunity to go back later in life
oh
to
gosh, yeah.
do
And
this.
just
I can't think of anybody that would have had that. And I just want to read you. So we have comments like Christopher saying it felt like a mini movie. It really did. It
yeah,
felt like a mini, right? It was
the
like,
writing was awesome. I mean, and the performances and everything. Yes, but yeah, I agree.
yeah. Um, they're asking if you'll be another show. Christopher's, I got goosebumps when Felicia and Maxie figured out it was BJ.
Hmm.
Did you see that scene?
Oh
Because
yeah, for sure.
what
I was,
happened? So you were like, tell me how that was shot. So they figure it out,
yeah, I wasn't there for that. So
right?
all those shots were a surprise to me, but I was like, yes, this is
So
awesome.
when you watched it,
Hmm. Yeah,
it was so good.
it was awesome.
So now, did your mom watch you on this whole thing?
Oh, come on, Michael. Yeah, of course she did.
And what did she? I mean, she must have loved it.
She did. Yeah, she was really supportive and I think there was a tiny part of her that wished that she could have been there with me like back in the day, but I'm not a minor anymore, so I don't need to have a legal guardian, so she didn't come with me, but yeah, she was really really supportive and of course that was a whole experience for her as well,
When
the
you were
initial.
when you came back, you're out in Utah, and people watched the. Did you get people to stop you about this in Utah? Have you people come up to you and go, "Are you the?"
Well, a funny thing happened. So, a couple of weeks, or not a couple of weeks, a week before I was supposed to go out to LA, my main water line in my front yard burst. So there was water everywhere and it was insane. And I had to call a plumber. And of course, Mark and team had told me to keep all of this very hush hush. We're not telling people we're going to go film General Hospital or something. And I was talking to the plumber who was assessing the job. And I said, I had been out in LA and this and that and the other. He was like, well, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, like, did some filming. And he was like, well, what have you been in? And I was like, oh, he's like in his 20s. Like, what? I don't know if there are a lot of men out there in their 20s who are watching soaps these days, but I just said, I don't think you're going to know it. And he was like, well, what have you been in the past? So I, didn't tell him I was out there filming General Hospital. And I said, well, the longest job that I had was on a soap opera called General Hospital. And he was like, you're kidding. My mom, my mom is a
Oh,
huge fan of General Hospital. Can I FaceTime her? And so I'm like in my sweatsuit getting this problem looked at. And I FaceTimed with her and she was like crying. And she was like, oh my gosh, it's you. And I, of course, didn't tell her, like, stay tuned, I'll be on the show soon. But interactions like that of people who are fans, yes. But other than that, just my family and friends being really supportive and watching the show. But I don't want to sound like a total square, but it's not like I like get out a lot. I mean, I'm working and I'm doing my,
right,
I do my yoga and my this and that and then whatever, but I'm not like out on the town often. So
right, right, right. Back to BJ. You did make a point with the woman crying. people just when you say BJ, they know what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And they go right back to this sad story.
Yeah.
I mean, I find that all the time when I talk to people and they ask me what I do, and they say General Hospital. Like I moderated the General Hospital convention of this year back in March, May or March, I can't remember the date, but Chris, I had Lynn Herring and Finola Hughes. Jackie had passed, so they were the panel to talk about Jackie. It
Yeah.
was very fresh. I just felt it was it was very fresh after she passed,
Hmm.
and it was very hard to talk about it.
Yeah.
Lynn was very close to her,
Hmm.
and so it was hard to like moderate a panel discussion, try to honor her,
Yeah.
people saying, sharing things about her. It was a bit tough to do.
Yeah. But Lynn's tough. I mean, she's a tough cookie, but she's also really soft, you know? I mean, she's
Is
just
it tough? No, I know. Yeah,
so fun to be around. And I think um she's so gracious.
she is. So when you did you so Mark Teschner, did you send a thank you to him, or what did
Oh
you
yeah, we're still talking. And I had a great conversation with Lisa. Mark came down, got to give him a hug. That was wonderful.
and you met Frank for the first time,
Yes.
Valentine.
Oh my gosh, he's awesome. He came in kind of like a ninja. Like we were on set and it was all quiet and he was like, "Hey, Frank, I want to talk to you. I'm Frank." And I was like, "Oh, hello." Hello. Here we go. Awesome. And was just so kind, said really nice things, passed on nice messages of things that people on set had said, and just thanked me. And kind of like this, like it's just like thank you back and forth. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I know.
It's really wonderful.
But did they give you a lot of notes? Like while you were writing, like, hey, so when you do the scene, remember you didn't get it was not like that, was it?
It was not.
Yeah.
So I was doing one of these where I was like, I hope this
Oh
is
my God.
give, giving what they're looking for. I'm hoping. I'm just trying to be a conduit here. So yeah, not a ton, but guidance for sure and support. And yeah, it was a top to bottom, truly wonderful experience.
Well,
Well,
I just want to say it really having you there just was so unbelievably special. It was just so special. And I'm watching you going, who's this good actor? Like I knew you were coming back, but I was like, oh,
yeah,
this has been good. Yeah.
yeah.
And she's
Thank
like,
you.
and then you think in your head, like, oh, this is BJ,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's it's an experience I will never forget. And yeah, like I said, I mean, just it's such a gift and really grateful for it and so grateful for how people treated me on that set.
Which is
Lynn,
great to hear.
Laura,
It's
Christina,
great to hear that the people, right.
Noah, Ken, Maurice. I mean, everybody, even people in the wardrobe department, people, I mean, everyone. What a team. Just classy, lovely, kind people.
Well, I want to thank you for taking some time and to connecting with me for this. I really wanted to talk to you. And I know there was like this wave of people talking to you, and I'm like, let me just wait a minute, let it air.
I
Let's
like
let
this
it air.
too.
And
Good.
then let's have a post more, a little post after it to talk about it. So thank you. And I really think, again, I just know Jackie would have loved that you were a part of this. I know in my heart and I believe it, and I know this would have meant so much to her. It really would have.
Michael, I really appreciate it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I don't know who's out there because I, one, don't have my glasses on and I'm not reading the comments. But I also want to say I did what I promised myself that I wouldn't do. I was like, okay, we're going to put this out there into the wild and we're just not going to look at the comments. But I did. I snuck a little peek. And I know the internet can be a treacherous place and some people don't have the kindest things to say, but everybody, from what I read, and we left it there, everybody was so kind
Oh,
and so supportive. And
oh,
I just want to say, like, thank you to the fans at the show. I'm so glad that they all felt that, this was the right way to do it, because for us on the inside, it really did feel that way. And I echo your sentiments, Michael. So just very appreciative to the fans and for the people who even found me on Instagram and sent a
I
nice
know.
message.
I was like, wait, let me
Oh,
find her. And I
it's
was like,
floating.
it was amazing. I'm this AAJR saying, awesome job, Brighton. So great seeing you on the show again. Christopher's sending hearts. I mean, this is what, it really meant a lot to people. And I think I never saw a negative comment on your return. Now, and I'm look at everything. Now, people always have their ways of how they think from an armchair quarterback position that they would do certain things, right?
Sure,
And
sure.
then the fans are always, this is an interesting industry medium because the actors are connected with the fans, it's connecting with the characters. It's very like this kind of different
There's a
genre.
feedback loop.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's everyone's part of it.
Yeah.
And but this was a very successful, this was like A+ win. So
Well, I was
so
happy to be a
I
part of it.
wish you the best. I hope we will talk sometime soon. Keep me posted on what's going on. And I'm sure Jackie would love this. So
I think the same. Thank you so much, Michael. It's been a
okay,
pleasure.
a pleasure. Have a great night. Thank you so much.